Okay. Hello, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Amazing. And please tell people out there a bit about the story of your film Dark Match.
Sure. Dark Match is a thriller. It's a movie about a group of wrestlers who are invited to perform an evening card in a small town, and the money is really good, and there's a reason for that. It's a bit of a trap.
It's
Yeah.
a bit of a trap. All right, yeah, that's the premise. That's like a solid Act One summary
Yeah.
right there.
That's
But
Act One.
we don't want to give it away. We want people to enjoy the experience, of course. But how do you describe the ambiance scene in Dark Match?
I mean, I think it's tense. It's a little weird. It's dark. I think there is humor in it, but I think it's trying to be kind of grounded and I mean odd. Odd is the word that I feel when I think about it. Because it's contradictions, it's obviously the absurdity and the high energy and charisma of wrestling, but also mixed with grounded darkness and occult ritualistic characters. So it's a smattering of a few different things, which is how I like it.
Oh yes. I love some of the lighting scene here. It's
Yeah, Kareem
not
Kareem
so
Hussein, brilliant DP.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not so over the top, but it's a little strange.
That's well said. Yeah, it's like you can kind of relate to it, but it definitely is beating to its own drum.
Oh yeah, it was a unique trance that I was put in. So I love seeing legendary wrestler Chris Jericho, of course. He's so cool in the ring, and it's nice to see. It was nice to see him in Terrifier 3 and then this film. Um, he's so ominous and used sparingly, which is one thing I really liked. What can you say about him as a collaborator?
I have only good things to say about Chris Jericho. He was wonderful to work with. He responded to the material and he had some ideas, and we saw eye to eye on who the prophet would be. So um, he brought a lot to the table, and not just like wrestling credibility. He also brought charisma and passion and an ability to fight. And, he didn't want to play Chris Jericho. He didn't want to play a wrestler. He wanted to play this character, the prophet, the leader. And I think that said, I think even if you are a fan of him from wrestling, you're going to get a kick out of a lot of the subtext of what he's saying and doing.
Certainly, I 100% agree. And tell people a little bit about the other key cast members in this movie and what they were like to work with.
Sure. This movie has a pretty big ensemble cast, actually. It's a great cast. It's led by Aisha Issa, who plays Miss Behave. She is our protagonist. She's a heel. She's playing a villain in this league of 1980s wrestlers, and she wants more for her life, and she's not getting it. And Aisha brought a lot of weight and intensity to the character. And she's our North Star. She's our guiding character. She's our litmus test for what makes sense and what might smell evil. We've also got Jonathan Cherry playing Rusty Beans, who's basically the manager of these ragtag group of wrestlers. Stephen Ogg plays Mean Joe Lean, who is probably the most famous wrestler in this particular troupe, and he's kind of over it at this point in his career. He's like I'd say the poor man's Hulk Hogan in this world, right? He's great though, and he's a heel at this point in his career too, and he's unlike Miss, who's very energetic and I want this, I want that. Mean Joe is like, I've been there, I've done that. We've also got Sarah Canning playing Kate the Great, who is kind of the new up and coming rising star of the league. Everybody loves her. She's an apple pie sweetheart. So she's kind of the foil to Miss in the ring, and kind of a friend out of the ring, but she doesn't really know her that well. And we've also got some actual wrestlers in this film. We've got Mo Jabari playing Enigma Jones, who's silent but deadly, a luchador who I love. Justin Lawrick plays Thin. We've got Thick and Thin. We've got basically just a whole bunch of the rest of the cast is filled out with actual local wrestlers. And we've also got Michael Eklund, who's playing uh, a pretty damn good creep, I'd say. He's the character who is a part of the he works with Jericho on the compound. It's hard to discuss this without giving away too
No, you're
much.
right. Noted, noted. I'm a big fan of Wolf Cop and Wolf Cop
Thank you.
2. I love that slogan or the tagline, "The fuzz is in." That's great. And I love the shooting guns. I love their score and
Oh, good.
as a band, they're just I've been fortunate enough to see them a couple of times here in Ottawa. So they're phenomenal. And music in your movies is great. So tell me a little about the score they'll get with this film.
Sure. Our score is eerie. It's probably one of the things I love the most in terms of keeping our film grounded. Um, it's it's very surreal. There are elements of synth and things like that, but it's not meant to be big and bombastic, and it helped with the tone of keeping it not a cartoon, right? So we've got a killer score, and we also have for this film some pretty good music actually to help set it in the 80s. We've got songs from Kiss and Trooper and a few others I'm forgetting, but it's a really well-rounded. I think musically, this film um, has a very specific tone, and it's not whiplash to go from big rock to like moody, dark score, but we do a little of both.
True, true. Would you consider yourself a big wrestling fan?
I wouldn't say I'm a big wrestling fan. I'd say I'm a wrestling fan who kind of comes in and out of it. And when I wrote this script, I was back in it in a big way. I was like in my youth, I was really into wrestling, and then I kind of, got more interested in things like comic books and film. And then I went to a wrestling match a few years ago and kind of rediscovered the love of it and saw such ripe material for a movie.
Nice. Do you have a all-time favorite wrestler? Do you have a contemporary wrestler that you like?
You know, I'm not really into like contemporary. I don't have anybody specific that I mean, I would say the wrestlers in our movie were great. I would
Yeah.
say because I got to know them and I got to see like what Mo and Justin and Mitch were all about in Alberta. So I just, I'm more into my era was more like the 80s, and I was into, personas like Junkyard Dog and uh, Hulk Hogan at the time and Ultimate Warrior, things like that. That was the era I came up in. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, noted. So what was your Fantasia Fest experience like with this film?
It was the best screening maybe I've ever had in my life, Like Fantasia is it's always a blast. It's the right place for a film like this. And I feel very fortunate with Dark Match because once I finished the script, in my head, I was like, I want it to go to Fantasia with this, and I want it to go to Shudder, and both those things happened. So I feel like when you have those hopes and dreams and it happens, you're already kind of anticipating that it'll be good. But all that said, Fantasia blew me away. Even expecting it to be good because I'd been there with Wolf Cop. This was a very special experience because the producers were there, the cast was there, some of the crew was there, and it was just a really fun response, the kind you want to get.
Oh yeah, they're a great audience. One of the best in the world, I'll say.
Agreed.
Yeah. Um, I would love to know, and it's fair to dodge this, but was this ever a veiled attack on Vince McMahon, this film?
Uh, no, that's funny you say that. I actually recently watched the Netflix series. I didn't know a lot of that stuff. No, this isn't a veiled attack on Vince McMahon or wrestling, but it is kind of subtextual attack on a certain type of person in the world we're living with characters like this in the world today. People who say what they think you want to hear, they dumb down messages, they distill things, and they get people to buy into their self-fulfilling prophecies of being deities, right? So there's a lot of that in 140 characters or less in the world right now. And I think wrestling to me felt like a really fun way to explore the idea of the myth of cult, like the cult of personality, which is very wrestling. So yeah, it's not a specific attack on any one person, but I don't think you'll have to look too hard to see this being relevant, I hope.
I see what you're going for sure.
Mm.
And an interesting segue for my next question: would you say the wrestling world is like the film industry at all?
It's totally like the film industry. And as I wrote this, I related so hard to these characters. I am misbehaved. I am someone who is going out there every day, kicking my own ass, trying to get my job done, trying to get respect, trying to get loved, for doing the best I can and having people occasionally spit in my face. Not literally. Or, I don't have to look too hard on the internet to see people say I suck, things like that. So it's funny. It's like I think wrestlers and filmmakers are people who work their asses off and they put themselves out there for their art, for their self-expression. And yeah, it's I have infinite respect for wrestlers. What a hard gig.
Sounds like it. Absolutely. I know I'll never know.
Yeah.
Is is there a wrestling documentary you would suggest to watch in a double bill with Dark Match? I don't know if you like those.
I mean, the most obvious recent one I'd say is Dark Side of the Ring. It's just a great series. It's
So good. Is
and
there a
basically
particular episode you would put with this one?
I don't have one off the top of my head, but there was one in one of the earlier seasons about that touched on racism in wrestling. I think that would be interesting, like something that focused on like maybe a female protagonist or a protagonist of color who was coming up at a time where you were relegated to being the heel or the bad guy, or you were there to get yelled at or cursed at.
Oh yes, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed it, and I've appreciated your movies over the years. So it's a real thrill to talk to you today. Is there a possibility of a Dark Match sequel?
If people turn up and see the movie and talk about loving it online, maybe. I mean, I would do it, but you can never know until people show up.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Michael. Nice talking to you.